Hey, welcome. This is the Gyms Near Me podcast. My name's Trevor Hall, and I'm joined here with my co-founder of GORX Fitness, Drew Towers, and we are joined today by Brayden Jessen from Golden Larch Designs. They build custom home gyms and everything, and we're really excited to talk to him and get an understanding of what he does in the industry and how he even got involved in building out home gyms. Brayden, thank you for joining us.
Sweet. Well, thanks for having me on, guys. I'm really excited. This is podcast number 1 for me, so let's see how this goes.
Right,
Right.
I love it. That's exciting.
Yeah. We've been a
So I
first
guess,
for a few people, actually, Trevor.
yeah.
I've noticed.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome.
So I
Do it.
guess if you're curious on how I kind of got into the industry is, well, for one, for your viewers, I'm actually up in Canada, so north of the border, the friendly neighbors up north. So I build gyms out of a place called Calgary. Calgary Flames play there, if anybody's hockey fans. So I've been in construction, I think it'd be almost 20 years now. Most of that was in roofing and siding, so lots of exterior stuff. I've done all sorts of different slope, flat, like crazy metal, commercial, residential. Like I was just like an animal as in my 20s and just like totally burned myself out. I was really good at it, but it's definitely like a young man's job, and all of a sudden I'm not quite that anymore. My back is just completely toast. So I was just kind of like back and forth on like what I wanted to do, what I wanted to pursue. My wife and I competed at Spartan, so we competed in like elite when they had it. She was actually on Team Canada of all
Oh,
things, so she was pretty good. So we train all the time. So it's big passion for us, and like I've got a long lasting passion for construction. So it just kind of dawned on me one day when we were starting to build our own home gym. I could really do this full time, and started to look into it. And from my knowledge, I'm sure somebody could probably tell me otherwise, just not too many people were doing it. And this was like kind of just as COVID was starting to hit. So it was kind of like right time, right place. And then we kind of built our showroom here behind me, and it just all kind of like snowballed from there. So it's just like it's turned into like a dream career. Like I have employees and stuff now. Like it's turned into like a full on career. So it's like very, very exciting.
that's awesome. That's awesome. I love to hear it. So, since kind of COVID when that launched, how many home gyms have you built out since then?
That's a good question. I don't know.
Yeah.
My invoicing is 200 plus, but not
Wow.
all of those would be full build outs, but I'm
Good.
sure we got to be over at least 100 and some now.
Right.
But they're not all crazy film stuff that you're gonna see on Instagram or like the showroom we have in the back in my background. A lot of it's just like we have a range available for pretty much everyone. It's just what can we do within your budget. A lot of it's just like setting up equipment, even just like some wall mounted stuff that people are just not too comfortable installing themselves. And we've really got a system down for basically everything now. So it's kind of like we have a home for everybody. It's just like what can we do that works for you? And it's had really, really good results. Like I've had lots of previous clients who are like, I can't believe we didn't do this before. It's like the convenience thing, right? Like you can just wake up, roll out of bed and just do a workout like we did this morning, and they're crushing their goals. Like we had a client who finally made the TAC team here, people who are like hitting their paces and mileage for running and strength training. So it's like not only is like a dream job, it's like it's actually doing some good and seeing some good results. So that makes it like worthwhile for me.
Yeah, you're building the
Thanks.
community,
Yeah,
right?
totally.
Yeah,
One
increase.
gym at a
Literally.
time.
Yeah,
So yeah, it's been super fun. I've got two full-time guys with me right now, and a lot of the bigger projects, like I have buddies in trades and all sorts of stuff that I've been working with for a long time. So it's just who do we bring to bat for what project is kind of the thing. But yeah, it really helps having like a really strong in-house team that I can rely on. Like they're out on site right now getting after it while I'm jumping on here with you. So it's kind of nice that I've been able to build a little bit of independence from site so that I can grow the business a little bit more. So it's more like I own more of a job, and now I'm starting to like grow the business and own a business type thing. So
absolutely. That's awesome. That's awesome. So wide range of gyms built, right? What's been your favorite project to have to work on? Like what was the big gym that you're just extremely proud to call built by you?
I didn't. It's tough. I'm really proud of all of them. Like it's some of them that don't look so flashy too. Like it's hard to say. Some of them are like we go in a couple days and we're out, but some of them are like really take some careful thought. Like typically it's like a spare bedroom type thing, right? So we're very confined, restricted on space, and that really makes things interesting sometimes. Sometimes you have to modify equipment to make it work for the space. Like what brand, what type of rack, what like length of bar, what type of plates and stuff. Like what can we spec to like really optimize the space for it to like function properly compared to previously if it was like a gym before or if this was just obviously like just a spare bedroom. But making the small spaces like function, I think is really key. But I do really enjoy the bigger ones that were set up for like 2-3 months at a time, where there's a lot more like construction type stuff involved.
Yeah. Yeah.
We did a loft gym here beginning of the year, and we put like I think the hoist MI7 in there was like 1,000 pounds, and we're putting this like on the third story. So it's
Wow.
just like figuring out, okay, how are we going to brace this floor to carry this like load that's going to be consistently up there, all the other stuff. They had vaulted ceilings, so everything was kind of like this. So it felt really big, but it was also quite restricting. Like there's some areas of the gym floor that looked open, but it's not really usable space, right? Because of the headroom. So how do we spec equipment in there that will make sense of it? So it's the things that get the head turning a little bit, I think is really what I like to, it gets me going, if that makes sense.
Are you doing more, I guess, in-house builds versus garage or detached structures?
So it depends. Like we do have basements here. I know like some parts of the States, like Texas, there's like no basements. Correct me if I'm wrong. So there's like a lot of like garage stuff, which we do a good chunk of garage work. But lots of people here, if they're not willing to give up a parking space just because they want their vehicles in for winter, we're typically in basements for the most part. This was like the first, maybe second one. We did a carriage suite that was on the second level, but they're mostly on slab, so concrete in the basement.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's funny how home gyms can trend differently depending on, the environment. Right.
Yeah, and how things are built. Like mine personally is in a garage, but I have like no space in my house elsewhere. I could use some space. It would be nice to use the garage as some storage sometimes. Like we built some stuff in that you can't really see, but now I've got a son and like we're probably thinking of having another one. So like things are just adding up here. So like space is definitely a constraint also.
Oh yes. I know how that goes. Yeah, I converted my garage from a 2-car double depth garage to a 2-car 1.5 depth garage and just built a wall across the back that gave me like a 6 foot by 22 foot
nice
storage section and just
that's sweet.
Finished
so
it.
It was like double long, so like a tandem. Okay, nice.
Yeah.
That's fairly common.
Not really. I think it was just the way that the house was built, the way that the house was laid out and everything. It fit a garage that was the same depth as the house basically, and so was 2 car lengths long from the garage door to the back, and so because that allowed me so much room for the gym, and I didn't need that much room. I was like, all right, I'll be able to cordon off that back portion, and so I just did a finished wall and with just a regular 36 inch wide door so that I could use it as storage and store stuff back there. It had like the HVAC and some other stuff that was for the house in the corner, and so
so your mechanicals in your garage.
Yep.
Yeah, ours is in our basements here. Interesting. I think I've seen that on a few people I follow down in the States, but I'm sure it differs all over the place. I'm just not too familiar with how things are built there.
I think it does differ quite a bit throughout the country. It really depends, I think, on your environment when it comes to how cold your area gets, right? Because if you don't have that HVAC in the garage, if it gets crazy cold in the winter, because then it just won't the HVAC won't kick on. But if you live in a climate that doesn't get, well under 0 degrees, then you're fine not having to take up space inside the house or somewhere else.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
And remind me, where are you guys based out of?
Oh, we're a fully remote company. So Andrew lives out in North Carolina, and I live out in the state of Washington. So I'm on the West Coast, Andrew's on the East Coast. We have employees peppered throughout the country, some
Nice.
down in Texas, Indiana, and one employee out in Hawaii, and peppered throughout. So yeah, so we have good coverage throughout the country, and a good mix of understanding when it comes to home gyms and the different types that can exist out there.
Nice. Yeah, there's lots going on down there. It's definitely a different market in the States than Canada for sure.
Yeah.
We'll talk
Yeah,
about that. What have you noticed is different about
That's-
the... My bad, Trevor.
Like it just availability of equipment too, because like a lot of things, even like for example Rogue, that's like mostly produced in the States, it's quite like to get it shipped up here is like some of the cost is just like ridiculous. I mean, some people want to pay it, who want the brand and stuff, and I totally get it. Some of it's okay, but like I think it's just getting cross border has been problematic for some people, and a lot of like the small companies I was talking with at Home Gym Con with like really, really great products, but they're like, well, we don't really ship to Canada. It's just like a whole new barrier to like get across country, even though like really it shouldn't be that difficult. But yeah, I think that's kind of like one barrier, and I feel like it's just such a bigger market. Like there's so many more people into that stuff down there. Like fitness is still big up here for sure, but I think it's just like there's such a higher concentration down there, even like population wise, right?
Yeah. That makes sense. What brands do you mostly work with when it comes to building out gyms?
So I work like quite closely with Bells of Steel. Like their HQ is in Calgary here. They were basically born and bred in Calgary. They're pretty big. It's really convenient to work with them because like their warehousing is great. It's like I can literally just show up and just like order stuff. They don't like that because it just takes time out of their day rather than organizing and just like picking up in the back. But that's just kind of how we have to fly sometimes. There's some local guys here. They're basically just like retailers who have their specific brands. Like some people will have Hoist or even like Cardio, for example. Like some people own and it'll be like the same down in the States is they'll have some people have the commercial rights, some people will have the residential rights. So it's just like trying to figure out who you got to talk to get equipment for the right stuff. It gets like, it's a lot to deal with, but it's also a very small world. So
Yeah.
I'd say probably mostly would be, I guess, Bells of Steel, just because it's convenient and like the quality's there too, for the most part. But when we're doing kind of our fancier stuff too, we just ordered like a pretty decent order from Watson. So stuff coming from the UK. So that was a fun experience to kind of learn to get stuff from out of country in for us. So it just like, it depends on the project. Like I try not to be kind of like a one trick pony where everything's always like the same company. It's just like, I don't want to be brand specific. I want to do what's best for the client, what makes sense for the space.
That makes sense. What are some considerations that go into building out these different gyms and things? Do you tend to lean heavily on what the client wants, or do they lean heavily on your design ability and your kind of expertise?
So kind of my process is I really want to go in depth with like what the client really wants out of the space, but more so like, what does your fitness look like? Like, I'm sure the fitness between both of you fellas would be different, right? Like when you get down to specifics. So when I really have an understanding of like what they need and like what their family needs, then I can start to kind of go into optimizing the space, like what they need for equipment. There's lots of like considerations, like do they have stuff already, or do they want to start fresh, or do they want to go all brand new type thing? And a lot of people do want to do it in stages too, because it is a fairly heavy investment, like to do everything up front. So it's like, can we do this in stages? We get the fundamentals down. We just like plan for growth type thing. So it's not like you're one and done, and then it's like, well, if I want to add anything, we can't.
That makes sense.
So it's just, I feel like it's a lot of thinking beforehand, but really understanding what your client is looking for before kind of diving down that rabbit hole is kind of like how we go about it.
Talk to us about how the business and services have evolved over time. So when you first went into business, I imagine what you offered as a service looked different than what you offer now? And what were some of the factors that drove you into pivoting into new services? Does that make sense, or would you like an example of what I mean?
I think that makes sense. I think it's just like how did the company grow as like our projects grew type thing and our services, like what did we offer?
Right.
At the beginning, like there's really nobody here who like specialized in gym stuff. So like I think the issue was getting like the word out there that like somebody like that exists. So that was like a big hurdle. But initially it was just like trying to find local companies who would work with me, who would give kind of more like contractor pricing. So there's a bit of incentive for, it's like a win-win for both. Because it is a business too, right? So like it's got to make some money somehow, right? So like if we can still like take a small percentage on equipment, and then we still sell to consumer at like small discount or MSRP type thing, then we can put some like install and stuff on top of that. But it really just started as gym flooring, mirrors, and equipment, and then really found that like people really do like the feature work to kind of make it a space that's very unique. So like if you were to scroll through our Instagram, you're not going to see one that looks identical to the other, which I think is the fun part of it. And I think that's really what evolved too, is just like starting to come around and understand that like the gym that we have now, nobody wants to work out in it because it's this dungy like room that we just hang our clothes up and just collects dust. And it's like, if you have this space that you like motivates you to be in there, people have like really dove into like making it aesthetically pleasing. And then also I think importantly, not losing the functionality of that. So yes, it looks pretty, but yeah, it's still a gym. Like you need it to function for how you want. So I think all of that just combined into like a package that we can offer clients. And then it eventually just turned into like full on basement developments. So we've got bathrooms, and we've got one starting next week that we're doing custom sauna, steam shower, cold plunge, like very, very fancy spa area. Like this gym, it's going to blow your mind. Like it's blowing my mind already. I could show you the plans on it. It's going to be crazy. Like I feel like each year there's like one gym that keeps like trying to like one up our top one, but I don't know if we're going to beat this one. I don't know. Did that answer your question? I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. You know, in the beginning of any entrepreneur's journey, you don't have any processes. You don't have any systems in place and you iterate it as you go. If you're doing it right, you're iterating and improving on your processes. Talk to us a little bit about what your process looks like from first time you get a lead to how do you nurture that lead through the sales cycle. From your sales cycle, what does then a build look like from start to finish?
So I will typically get, unless it's like straight off of Instagram, it'll be through the website. People contact me. There's like a little form you can fill out. I'll get that email, and I think trying to respond to that as quickly as you can so people understand that you're responsive has been a big win. People are like, wow, thanks for such a quick response. And immediately just kind of getting the ball rolling. Hey, can you send me some pictures? Can you send me some measurements or spec or ideas or pictures or stuff that you like want? Or if you don't know, that's totally fine. We can go over that. We can take care of that. I'm happy to like take the wheel and drive. And then just starting that cycle already. So there's building a little bit of confidence with your clients, and then booking a site consultation, which is big because for one, as in construction, I need to see the space. It's good for plans, but plans don't do everything, right? So it's just like kind of knowing when you get in there what to look for what you're doing. Even like if we're doing wall mounted stuff, stud spacing makes a big difference. Do I need to put some sort of backing on the wall so we can get the stuff mounted where we want, etc. And taking the client through that, I think is also just like people like to be involved in this. And it's not like a roof or siding or like a deck where it's like, how do you make, they all look the same, right? Like I've known that for a long time. I feel like our projects are so unique and fun that people are like really excited to like get going on it and be a part of it. That just like getting them amped up and excited during that process, I think just like turns over very well. And then like kind of as we start is like, I'm always bringing them down, being like, hey, we're doing this today. Just communication is big, right? True. Setting the expectations, they know what they're going to get. We have to obviously follow through with a quality install. And then, yeah, I think just like normally, especially for the longer ones, they're like, can you hurry up, please? Because we want to use the space. Like, we're so excited type thing. So I think it's got good results all around. So I think, yeah, just like high level of involvement for the clients, and then obviously just like following through with what you're going to say and do is key.
Starting a business can be scary for a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
Especially when you're looking at the stats that are not necessarily encouraging about how many businesses actually survive over the course of time. So what were some of those early mental hurdles that you had to overcome? And what were the ways that you just broke through them and then got started?
So I think the big one for me was, one, why is nobody doing this, at least where we are? And two, is there a reason? Did somebody do it and then fail type thing? So I couldn't find information on either. For me, it was just like being okay with taking a risk. It's more of like a calculated risk. At the time when I started it, I left a roofing company, very, very busy, definitely sold my soul. I got paid very well for it, but it was just like, it was not worth it on my body anymore. So I was really like desperately looking to find something to like change it up. And this just felt good to me. Like I could feel it, but it was like super scary, right? Like you don't know what's going to happen. Is it going to take well? I think having the other skills I had leading up to this point really helped out, because the first couple of years of my business, I was still doing lots of roofs and siding in the background that Instagram never saw, socials never saw, right? So I can still put food on the table. And then it's just slowly, as the gems are rising, I'm like taking all my other contracts down. And this year is kind of like the first year that I'm not doing anything else. It's strictly gyms. So
Congratulations.
I think taking the risk and being okay with taking the risk was a tough one. But as like the company progresses and like you hire a guy and you hire another guy, it's like another like unknown. But I think just like having a calculated risk tolerance would be beneficial. Starting a business in itself is also very daunting. There's lots of stuff going on, which I think a lot of people, it's too much information to go through. I did go to university. I graduated with a Bachelor of Business Administration. So I did take a lot of stuff that transitioned over very well. I did have a previous company before too. So it wasn't all like brand new to me, but tweaking things to make it in the gym sense was like another thing to kind of make things difficult. But if you're an entrepreneur and you're hungry enough, like you're going to find a way to make it work.
Real quick, what are some of the things that you did in the beginning when you kind of started this business and everything that you wish you would have done differently, or, tripped you up in the very beginning? Was there anything where you look back and you go, why did I make that decision?
I don't know. I feel like everything is lined up quite well. Like some jobs like went south, and it was for a reason that like could have been completely avoidable, but it's all a learning experience. So it's like you take that with you to the next one.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like there'd be like small mistakes that would cost money type thing, right? Or like, oh, I can't believe I didn't think of this. Like, why didn't I think of that? And then it's like we got to go back, and like I think just making sure that you're not going back and making it the client's fault, and just like being a good business and like following through makes a big difference. Like, for example, I had a warranty issue with some LED strip lighting that we did in this fancy gym at the beginning of, might have been this year. They're all blending now.
Yeah.
But it was very detailed on how all the strip lighting was incorporated into the whole gym, and installed a faulty strip, or like a month or two later, it just started like changing different colors and stuff. So yeah, it sucks. Like it costs money to get the guys back. We took everything apart. I had to get my electrician back, but like, I think just doing the right thing also like goes a long way.
Mm-hmm.
Because like, yeah, you lose a bit of money now, but like you're trying to build a long-term business. At least I am anyways. So just like, be a good person, I guess, to be a good business, follow through, like fix your mistakes and move on and learn from it. Like you got to learn from everything. So what I take from this last job always follows me to the next one. And it's just like something, even when I'm going through a walkthrough, I'm like, okay, I know I screwed this one up last time. Like I'm looking for that now. So it's like, it definitely grows and evolves, but like I'm trying not to be as static as possible, always looking for more creative stuff, because I feel like complacency is also a killer too. So just trying to keep up on what's up and coming, which is also another very daunting piece. But I'm trying to figure out TikTok right now. Because that's going to be the future audience, right? Like Instagram is fine. I think I can get Instagram nailed down, but
Yeah.
it's the TikTok audience who are going to be home buyers like in the next 5-10 years, right? So like trying to get on that wave early
Yep.
and trying to stay on the next TikTok or whatever, just like
Yep.
trying to stay relevant all the time too.
Yeah, that makes total sense. I think that's I really respect and like the answer of just being a good person and putting your best work forward, even if it's going to be maybe a little bit detrimental to your bottom line at the time, right? I think that's extremely important to build trust with your customers, but also trust within the industry, right? There's going to be other businesses that see that or will force them to either up their game when it comes to their service, or also they'll notice what you did for that other customer and they'll come to you for something down the road. I think that laying those seeds out there, I think it just reaps dividends down the line.
I think
we see that in
just
our
like
own.
caring in general,
Yes.
like
Yeah.
just like the whole process, like clients can tell like, A, that I'm passionate about this and I care about the end result probably more so than they do. And I think that pays dividends for sure. It's just like care about it. It's not just like another number or whatever,
Yeah.
another file. It's like, yeah, this project is living, breathing, like let's take it and hit it out of the park.
Andrew, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to say, in our own journey as entrepreneurs in a SaaS, is basically a platform, we have people on Instagram, influencers, anytime they see a new Airbnb for home gym type platform pop up, send us notes and be like, hey, what do you think of these people? We've invested quite a bit of time, effort, energy to building relationships within the community of that core community of home gym influencers. And the way that has grown for us and the fruit that we've seen from that labor is, hey, we're going to recommend GORX over these guys because one, they're new in this space, or two, they haven't done anything to invest in the community. It looks like a quick money grab. And so I'm just saying all that to obviously plug us, but to be transparent, but also because that work and effort into being good dudes or good people in general is one of those business advice that you hear people say, but not always practice, right? People can give lip service to it, but not necessarily commit to it.
And it's not the easiest thing to do, right? Like we put a lot of effort into building our relationships and being a part of the community and being a positive part of the community, right? And it forces us to have to grow a little bit slower. It forces us to have to do things that don't necessarily bring in clients or bring in revenue for us.
Scale quickly.
Yeah, or scale quickly. I mean, it forces us to do the right thing because we don't want to get somebody into a situation or any of our, micro gyms that are on the platform or anything like that into a situation where we can't help them out or we can't, we're not covering some sort of risk that's built into the industry. And so if we don't try to keep all those ducks in a row, then we'll eventually over time lose all of the clients instead of just build slowly and build an actual community around it.
Well, case in point is, sorry, I'll just make the point real quick. So case in point is, if you're going to start a micro gym, or forget starting a micro gym, if you're going to rent out your home gym, that's a business. That's a commercial activity. And in the US, I imagine it's the same in Canada. There are government agencies and, local villages that care about that. And so we invested heavily into the research into what it takes to actually start a home-based business lawfully and to be in good compliance with everything from your local town to your HOA. And since we've started, there have been 5 or 6 other platforms that have popped up, and not one of them have offered the best way to do this, the way to keep yourself out of trouble. It's more or less, hey, we've got a great opportunity for you to make some passive income on a space that you have available. True. That's all true. But the risk that's associated to opening up your home gym is not worth taking if you're not going to look into the nuance of running a home-based business, and especially one that people could potentially get injured in. Invested all the research and time and that human capital to go out and reach people that know this stuff to help us build out a process, but also a guide that people can start this process with confidence and knowing that like I'm mitigating my risk and that GORX is showing me the best way to mitigate that risk. So anyway, I'll shut up there.
No, it's good. I feel like you guys are like, you're like a gym god, right? Like,
Yeah.
how do we get from A to B, and like how you provide that service, like people will totally remember, and it's personal because it's out of their house, right? It's not just like another dollar, like showing that you care and like this is their property type thing. Like, yes, it's a business, but it's also it's their house. So I feel like it's so much more personal. So like making that a more personal experience for them, like I think you guys are like knocking it out of the park.
I appreciate that.
No, we appreciate that. I mean, we noticed that people will come to us and ask us questions about things, and we've even sat down with people and gone through the conversation and said it might not work in your area, or maybe your HOA, there's too much risk involved with your HOA or whatever it may be. And so we've had to have tougher conversations where we're like, you can do this, but you will have these risks laid out. And some people have turned by the wayside and said, okay, well, I don't think I'm going to pursue it. And then they just become, a part of our community, so that if a micro gym pops up in their area, they can just be a user of that micro gym instead. And so we understand that the growth is going to be slower in that regard, but I think it's going to pay dividends down the road because we're establishing things and we're building a foundation that is going to last.
Yeah, I would just
building
add
it too fast.
Yeah. And I would add to Trevor's point, there have been people that we've sat down and we've talked, we've gone through all the different factors and what it would take to start a micro gym in their town or their street in their community, and they've walked away. But others have said, you know what, I'm going to go and forward anyway, and I'm going to start this business despite knowing that maybe my HOA isn't friendly to it, but it's not explicitly prohibited. So I'm gonna make that calculated risk. No, but but the point that I'm making is they have that education now. So now they understand the risk, and now they're taking that calculated risk that you were talking about, moments ago. I now can say with confidence that this is where I'm exposed. This is my tolerance. And so I'm going to go because it doesn't meet my tolerance. It doesn't, exceed my tolerance. I'm going to make that decision and I'm going to go and build my micro gym despite, maybe, a community or HOA not being favorable to it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Good times with those guys.
When we've seen some of those situations even occur where there's no established like regulation or anything around it. And so in that regard, we get to be the ones that are a proponent of establishing whatever it may be, whatever the rule around having a home-based gym business is, because then at least we can be a part of creating that vision for that area, right? Or creating what it takes in that area and be a positive proponent of that community, even though Drew or myself have not even ever visited that community.
100%. I've sat on calls with village administrators from people that were exploring whether they could start a gym. Hey, let me just give them a call. Sometimes it's that easy. But
set the tone.
Yeah, dude. I mean, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of work, but because for us, and we'll stop talking about us because we've been, this is about you. But for us, we're in like a demand generation stage, right? There's clearly pain points that people have about commercial gym spaces and would prefer a private, gym rental experience over the commercial gym experience. I mean, we see adjacent businesses being built all the time, offering like micro boxes for people to rent out a container. This space that we're in is, still raising the awareness about the home gym in someone else's home gym being a viable option to the issue that or pain that they might be experiencing in commercial gym. So
Larch is filling that void of where there wasn't somebody in the area that was doing that, and there was a slight appetite, and you had to kind of build that appetite in the
yes,
area. And now you're seeing that, okay, people get an understanding of what you're building and what you're doing and the services you're offering. Then they'll start to be able to get creative with their own desires and then reach out to you, and all of a sudden you've got another project on you.
Yeah. Like, I feel like the landscape completely changed with COVID too, because there was like no demand. Nobody really cared about home gyms unless you were just like an avid home gymmer and like you would refuse to go to commercial space. I feel like now that people have spent so much time at home and lost the ability to go to those locations, it's like completely rewired everything. Like builders, for example, I'm sure it's the same in the States. Like you're going to see dedicated areas on all the building plans for most homes. Maybe not so much like the cookie cutter homes, but it's providing an entry point for us into the market with the builders, because the design teams, yeah, they can make it look very, very pretty and stuff, but they don't speak gym.
Yep.
Right? Like
Right.
they don't understand, and like it's a big market, like to understand how equipment works and like what the client's needs are and how do we meet that. So like we're just kind of like nudging our way into new markets that way too. So I think just like there's total landscape changes that just change the way that people think, that make more opportunities for guys like us.
Yeah, and someone like you will have the wherewithal and the know-how to understand that a client might want, 5 different pieces of equipment, but really they're only going to need 3 of those items or whatever it may be, right? So then it's like, okay, well, how about we just maximize this portion of your budget towards this, and then you can dream in this regard or expand once you feel that you need that. But I know that when I started building out my gym, that I had grandiose plans for all this different equipment, and then I realized, well, I don't actually need every single one of those items that I want.
Yeah. I think some people just need somebody else to tell them no, because like I want this, that, and I'm like, if you look at the square footage, like your room isn't even big enough to fit all that stuff. So I think just like having the knowledge in there to like tell people like what reality is going to look like too also helps. But it's good. Like I like the fact that people are dreaming and they want all this stuff, and it's exciting.
100%.
It's like it's an exciting process, and
Yeah.
it's the same thing for building a micro gym for a business. Like you're going to want to make it look appealing for people to come work out in there, right? Like in my opinion anyways, I could be wrong. If you make it more attractive, like the chances are higher people are going to come, right? And it's a business, you want to attract people. I think that's an easy way to do it, aside from going with like crazy expensive equipment that people may or may not respect. It's just make it a place where people can like feel comfortable, actually get a full range of movements, and because not everybody's going to be the same, rather than just being like a specified, like this is only a powerlifting gym, which would be sweet too. I think you're just limiting the type of people that you can attract in there. So I think just like having a big scope of multi-function pieces in there and like functional space and a spot where people want to go work out, like I think that would be a pretty good formula for a GORX gym.
Absolutely. I agree. Let's see. Before we kind of wrap this up, I wanted to kind of get an understanding of what do you think is the future of home gym fitness? And is there anything that you think is going to be, is there any piece of equipment that you think is just going to be ubiquitous in every single home gym that isn't currently right now, or anything like that? I always like to pick people that are in.
I think the days of just like a standard squat rack are over.
Yeah.
Because there's so many multi-function, and like I have just a simple squat rack here too, but getting like the functional trainer squat rack combos, like it's crazy here. Like it's such an easy sell where typically they're 2 very large pieces where it's like you choose one or the other, and like it's just like the best of both worlds there. Like you have such a wide range that I feel like just the 4-post squat rack days are like they're numbered. Like it's such a classic, but like
Totally agree.
they're becoming more and more affordable to get the cables or like the weight stacks on there. I think that's changing. I don't know if like the dumbbell to adjustable dumbbell will ever, like one will take over the other. I think there's argument for both still. I think you're going to see a lot more like recovery type stuff involved. Like the cold plunge is very, very popular right now.
Yep. Yep.
Just like, yeah, we can go get after it in the gym, but like, what are we going to focus on after? I think recovery is going to be a pretty important one with all that like technology becoming more and more available and like at a more affordable rate. I think you're going to see a lot of that stuff, but I don't know, like smart systems.
Yeah.
Their smart trainers are going to be more relevant too, I think, because it's all like digital weight.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty cool. I haven't tried any of them yet, but I've heard they're more difficult than you would expect.
Yeah, they're interesting. I tried one. I can't remember the name of it at Home Gym Con, but yeah, it was really interesting. I mean, it's a different experience, right? If you're used to traditional free weight and weight stacks and stuff like that, then it might feel odd in the beginning. But I could see myself kind of getting used to that kind of thing. Yeah, I tend to. What's funny is I've kind of evolved from having a bunch of equipment in my gym to I got rid of some of it, but then I keep it. But now I've really only used kettlebells for like the last almost year and a half. So
Nice.
I kind of like limited what I use, even though I have a bunch of equipment in there. It's all just gathering dust right now because the way that I've been, keeping up with my fitness has evolved in and of itself.
Nice.
Yeah.
Kettlebells. Yeah, we only have a few of those here, but I should do more of that work.
Yeah.
Get the blood flowing.
It's really functional for me, and I think it helps with. I just feel better. I feel like I'm more fit when I use kettlebells.
See, now you've painted a picture. I feel like I know what your gym looks like.
Yeah, there's photos out there of my gym, so yeah, we'll get. I'll get some photos over to you. As we wrap this up, can you kind of lay out how people can get a hold of you and what that process looks like in getting a project started with you?
So it's basically booking us through our website, getting the conversation going. Any of our social media stuff, Golden Larch Designs, Instagram. I think our TikTok is something similar. See, I'm pretty foreign on all that, but I don't think we'll be booking work from there, at least not yet.
Yeah.
But like, take into consideration, I feel like most of your viewers, your listeners are south of the border for me. So we basically just operate in our local area. I'm hoping the next year or two is just have a more remote design section where I can have somebody who, because we have people messaging from the States, from all over Canada, being like, hey, we just need help on the design type thing. And I just like, my design time has to be going towards what we're building right now because we're just so busy with that. That's kind of like our bread and butter. So I want to open up like a almost like a side division that's just like strictly design remote that we can fire stuff off. So maybe stay tuned for that. But as it stands, we're just up here in Calgary, Alberta.
That's exciting. No, that's awesome. I think that there's definitely a need for that out there, and I think that you're establishing yourself as a voice in that space already, anyways, and so it seems like a good fit. Well, Brayden, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you. We'll put your different social media handles and everything in the description for the episode. But it's Golden Larch Design on Instagram, and you guys have awesome stuff, and we just really appreciate you coming on the podcast and kind of giving us your background and giving us your insight into this industry and the community.
Absolutely.
Yep. Yeah. All right. Thank you again, Brayden. This has been the Gyms Near Me podcast. My name's Trevor Hall. This is my co-founder of GORX Fitness, Andrew Towers, and we were joined today by Brayden Jessen from Golden Larch Designs.
Sure.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Appreciate it.